My name is Nikko Johnston. I go to Garfield High School and I'm 17. My older sisters were in a indigenous acting group called Ready Goal Soaring, and so they really liked it, and so when I was old enough I joined, and that's kind of how I started doing art and stuff. I joined when I was 11, and all of the shows that we did were adapted indigenous stories for the most part, so it was traditional stories were adapted into plays and things like that. For a while in the summertime we would go to Yakima and we would do theater with the community there, and that was really fun. It's still the same traditional stories and stuff like that. And then also in the end of summer there was a 2-week every day day camp called SIOP, which is awesome, and we get to put on another production. It was there was always the same people that came, and it was really awesome to see people come back and also some new people, which was cool too. I love art because of the community it builds, both with the people you're doing it with and with the people you're sharing it with. So the audience, but also the people you are performing with, because for the communities I've formed and the bonds I've formed because of theater, I've changed. I've found my identity, both in a racial sense and also in LGBTQ sense. I would never have really found those things in the same way if I didn't have those spaces. And also I've formed some of the greatest friendships I have just through theater. The indigenous community in general in Seattle is if you don't know that person, you know someone who knows that person, so it's kind of you see someone and you're oh, I've seen you before at least. I don't know, it's a lot of things like that, so it's very connected. Yeah, it was definitely nice to have a place to learn about my culture, because it'd be kind of hard just because of the history of America and all of that. So, and also having a collective of different learnings about each tribe. So it's this teaching or whatever comes from this tribe and things like that, which is really cool to kind of not only learn about yourself, but also the people in your community that are different. Yeah, once I got into high school, I started doing theater at my school, which I do a lot of, and it was different. It's weird because since I still look white, it was kind of I could still kind of see myself, but there was still cultural differences. When we even talked about theater, it was weird. I was I've never heard people talk about it like this, and it was also there was an expectation where I should know these things and know these things, know this show or whatever. And I'm I'd never been exposed to I guess more mainstream theater, because I was in the process of creating it with other people. They definitely had a separation, because I think a lot of it was oh, I feel better then, because it's they know more and things like that, even though I still knew things about theater, just not the kind of theater they were used to. I still find it harder when we're debating about how to go about something, where it's oh, we should do this. People don't see the value in telling just the story, and it can really just kind of be whatever you want. It doesn't have to have this element necessarily. There's a narrative of what people who do certain things look like, obviously. So I think generally theater is what a lot of it's for white people or whatever. And there's also just not a lot of stories being told in any kind of artistic sense that has native peoples. And so having something where it's you're just with people who share a lot of your same ideas and share a lot of your same viewpoints about how to go about things, and have the same open-mindedness is really awesome, and just opens up a perspective of so many more things you think you can do that maybe you didn't think before. In the summer I was in a show called Mr. Burns. The entirety of the cast was people of color, and the space that created was a really safe space. I felt I could actually try things on stage and not feel bad about it. There was no shame, and it really felt we were supporting each other. Even though I think a lot of us didn't know each other, we still were able to build a community and create some really great art. There were so many things that you could feel in that space that I feel I could not feel in the wider high school spaces I've normally been in, because it was I felt comfortable being I feel showing that I was insecure about something, because I feel in high school it feels really high stakes to be not confident in something. And since I do a lot of leadership, I really try to use that to elevate people who don't have that kind of power that I've been given. There's been times where it's someone's oh, I understand what diversity looks like, or I understand what making space for people of color looks like, and then I'm okay, cool, so I don't have to worry about this thing that you're doing because you said you have it handled. And then it's it's really just where the barrier hits, where it's even if one of my white peers, I'm even if you say that you understand, you don't fully, because you're not in that kind of community. I think it's I think it's a problem that's obviously going to take time, a lot of things do, but I just think that there's a lot of people who need to like set aside their pride for a moment. You're like, I need to like listen with open ears to what this person is saying. A lot of the issues that come up is people are like, oh yeah, let's have diversity. And then they think that's gonna solve it. If they're like, yes, we want to be diverse, it'll just happen. But I think having action-based things, so it's like, okay, we want diversity, so like, how are we going to achieve that? Like, do we need just, in general, do we need more people of color, or do we need more like, whatever, you know? So I think like looking at that and actually making action-based plans based on that, instead of just kind of talking. Me and one of my friends, we do like one-act festivals at my school, and we are going to try to make a one-act festival that's entirely people of color, because I have power in the program and because I have connections throughout the school. Like, I want to work with people and be able to do input on this thing that's people. My friend had been talking about diversity in theater in one of their language arts classes, and basically they had been like, what would make you join this thing? Because like they have like a mostly POC like classroom, and a lot of them were like, if they just like saw people, if there were spaces made, if there were like stories of color being told, then they would be more inclined to join. If people don't see it, they're not interested. If they don't see themselves, they're not interested, and because it's not for them. Find people who make you feel safe and like get in a little group. And if you guys don't, and if you guys want to do something and you guys don't see opportunities for yourselves, then make them. And because I think that's one of the biggest things that why Mr. Burns happened, because the director was like, I want this to happen and no one else is doing it, so I'm going to. And so I think you just have to like find communities, and like he reached out to certain people, so you really just gotta like find people, make art with them, find people who make you happy, find people who make you feel safe, and do that forever.